Okay, let's talk about declaring methods. I'll use the word method and function synonymously here. In Java, you would do public static void main, something like that. In Python, you just use the word def to declare a new function. So let's declare a function that will find the average of a number, or sorry, of two numbers. So let's say def average, and then because there's no data types, we don't need to say like int a. You can just say AB as the two inputs. And then you use a colon to declare your code block. And let's say return a plus b divided by 2. Okay, so in Java, you should be having kind of red flags or like little alarm bells going off in your head because you should be worried about integer division happening. If a and b are ints and you divide by integer 2, it's going to truncate your results. That is not what happens by default in Python. So let's see what does happen. So let's print average of, let's do 4 and 5. And let's run the code. And there you see 4.5. So Python doesn't do integer division unless you use 2 slashes, which is a way of specifically telling it to perform integer division, which is pretty nice, I think. Something else you can do in Python that you can't do in Java is multiple assignment. So let's go to the interactive console and let me show you this. So I can say AB equals 3, 5, and that will assign 3 to A and 5 to B. As you can see, A is 3, B is 5. So you can take advantage of this multiple assignment to have functions that return multiple values. So let's do this. Let's say minval equals the min of A and B, maxval equals the max of A and B, and AV equals A plus B over 2. So here I'm calculating like what's the min, what's the max, what's the average. And if I want to, I can return all three. So let's return minval, comma, maxval, comma, average. So here I'm going to, and let's rename this like stats. So let's see what it displays if I just run it as is. So you see that it's displayed 4, 5, and 4.5 in inside these parentheses. This looks like a list, but it's not a list. It's actually something called a tuple, which is sort of like a list, except it's read-only, so you can't modify it. We'll talk about tuples later, maybe. If you wanted to, though, you could assign these to different values. So m equals, or so let's do this, a equals stats of 4 and 5. So now, because the order in which I was returning the values was min, max, average, lowercase m is going to get min, uppercase m is going to get max, a is going to get average. So let's run it and then, I guess, print it. So min is m, max is m, average is a. And we'll run it, and there we are. Min is 4, max is 5, average is 4.5. Another cool thing that you can do with functions in Python is have default arguments or named arguments. So let's write a method called sum that calculates the sum from whatever your starting argument is up to 10. So I'll say def sum, I'll have a start and an end. There's a shorter way to do this in Python, but I'm going to approach this the way that I think you probably think about it in Java. So we'll have value starting at 0, and then I'll say for num in range from start to end plus 1. I'm doing end plus 1 because I actually want to include that last number there in my sum. And val plus equals num, and then we'll say return val. Okay, so let's run it. It's not displaying anything because all we've done is define the sum function. But now if I want to run it, I can say sum from 1 to 10. And it'll say 55, which is the correct value for that. Okay, let's make the font a little bit larger here. Okay. Cool. So one thing I can do is I can give end a default value this way. So by saying end equals 10, let's reload my function definition. So now if I say sum, let's do sum 9, So I only included one argument here because end is defaulting to 10, and so 9 plus 10 is 19. If you wanted to, you could make start and end have default values. So I'm going to reload my definition, and then I can just say sum, and that will go straight from 0 to 10. Or I can say, well, here, you might wonder, what is sum 5 actually going to do? Does 5 count as the start or as the end? I hope it's clear that it was counting 5 as start here. But that's a little bit confusing. So another nice thing you can do is you can actually say start equals 3. Or let's do this. Let's say end equals 5, like that. So now start has used its default value of 0, and I've explicitly said that the ending parameter should take the value of 5. Excuse me. So I could say start equals 5, and that uses 5 for start and 10 for end. Or you could do both if you wanted to. Start equals 5, end equals, like, 8. And that'll be the sum from start to end. So this is really nice and flexible, both having default starting values and having named arguments here. And you can use these separately. You can, if we go back and have no default values, you can still say start equals, well, and because they're named, you can do them in either order. So end equals 10, start equals 5. Because as long as you're naming them when you're running the method, when you're running the function, you're still passing the correct values. So that's pretty neat.